Hey everybody, my name is Nathaniel Dodson from tutvid.com. Welcome into this Photoshop tutorial where today we're going to take a look at this really cool typography style portrait effect where we just transform the skin of a person into this like deep, almost like you can reach out and touch it, 3D text effect. It's really cool. You can use any font you like. You could use your own handwriting or calligraphy or scriptiness if you can get it in Photoshop, you can use it in this effect, and I think you're really going to like it. Now, if you do enjoy this tutorial, make sure you hit the subscribe button, turn those notifications on so you never miss another Photoshop or other tutorial from tutvid.com in the future. And with that out of the way, let's jump into this tutorial right now. All right, so here we are in Photoshop. Now, this whole process begins by choosing an image onto which we'd like to apply this typography effect. Now, I've got this image here. I really like it. I think it's going to work well for this effect. And I think to keep things simple and uniform, I'm going to go ahead and grab the crop tool here, and I'm going to both re-ratio this photo to a perfect square and also resize the photo down to 2048 pixels by 2048 pixels. I'm just setting dimensions for the pixels in the top control bar right up here when I select the crop tool. Now, to create the type pattern that's going to be pressed into her skin, now that we've cropped the image, we're going to go ahead and create a new Photoshop document, and this is going to be the same size as your photo. In our case, of course, that's 2048 by 2048. Next, I like to use this website called relatedwords.org. It allows you to load a clean list of words that are related to a word that you enter. So this is going to load us a list of words that are related to this image. Let's say that this girl's a writer. So we'll use for our main keyword literature and see what relatedwords.org can come up with. Of course, if you like, you can always take the time to come up with your own list of 50. I would say 50 or so words will work. So you can take your time to come up with a list of 50 or so words if you prefer that. So I'm going to highlight this list of words, or most of them at least, and then I'm going to head over to my Google Drive. Now, you'll see why I prefer Google Drive for this particular step over just about anything else, and there might be some other ways to do it. This is just the way that I've been doing it now for a little while when I do this kind of thing. I'm going to create a new text document in Google Drive, and I'm going to paste in all of that text that I copied to my clipboard without formatting. So the hotkey is Command or Control plus Shift plus the letter V. So it's going to paste in that text as plain text without all of sort of the accoutrement that's going to come along with it. So just the raw text. But the issue that we're going to have here is that, as you can see, we now have this long list of words, but each of them is on their own line. We need all of this to be clumped together like a word cloud, just a whole bunch of words together that we can begin creating our texture with. And this is where Google Drive comes in clutch for me. I use this. It's totally free and super cool. It's a Google Docs add-on called Remove Line Breaks. I'll throw the link for it down in the description for this video. And it does a great job of, as you would expect, removing all the line breaks. All I have to do is highlight all of the text, go to the add-ons menu, choose Remove Line Breaks, and then from that menu, choose In Selected Text. Copy this text to your clipboard by hitting Command or Control C, and we now have just a big block of plain text ready to be pasted into Photoshop. So we'll jump back over to Photoshop and into that new blank document that we created, select the text tool, and drag out a text box over the entire document, roughly. It doesn't have to be exact, but around the size of the entire document. The closer you get, the better. And then I'll hit Command or Control V to paste in the series of words that I just copied from Google Docs. And now begins the process of editing and sizing the text to make this look reasonably proper. Let's open the character panel by going Window, Character, and find a font that we like for the text. I'm going to go ahead and use Playfair Display SC at a bold weight. I'm going to set the font size to 80 points, and I'm going to set the line height to 60 points to kind of smush the text together a bit. And I'll also choose the little all caps button near the bottom of the character panel to make all the text uppercase as well. Again, this is all just personal taste. You'll also want to make sure that your text is colored black. Now, a quick side note here. If you're working on a much larger or much smaller document, in all likelihood, your sizing will be a little bit different. It really doesn't matter overall because it's just going to change the way that the effect looks a little bit, but it doesn't change the way the effect works. So it'll still work for you if you use massive text or tiny text. This is just the size that I like for this. Maybe once you go through this video once, you'll realize, ooh, I want to try that again with smaller text or with larger text. So we'll move along and open up the paragraph panel. Again, this is just Window, Paragraph. And here we're going to choose to justify the text to the left. This is going to make the text look a bit funky, a little stretched out, a little ill-spaced, but if you simply tick on the little hyphenate option, it's going to help even out the mess and just give us nice, cohesive, solid blocks of type. So commit that change for your type, and then we're going to duplicate this text layer 3 times. So we want to make 4 layers of text in total. So we're going to hit Command or Control J 3 times, and then we're going to shut off those top 3 versions of text that we just created by hitting the little eyeball icon in the Layers panel. Select the one visible version of the text and go to the Edit menu, choose Free Transform, and rotate the block of text about 8 degrees counterclockwise. Size it upward by holding down your Command or Control and Alt or Option keys and just dragging any corner handle until the text just kind of fills out the document and just fills up the joint. And then we're going to set this layer to an opacity of 30%. Go ahead and turn on the next text layer. And with this text layer selected, once again, we're going to go Edit, Free Transform. But this time, we'll rotate the text 20 degrees, and we'll rotate it clockwise. Again, scale the text upward to fill the document like we did before, and set this layer to 60% opacity. But here's where we change something up. We're going to add a drop shadow to this layer of text by double-clicking on the text layer out near the name of the text layer, not the text layer's thumbnail, to bring up our blending options, and choose to add a drop shadow. Set it to the normal blend mode, 50% opacity. I'm going to make sure the color is solid black. The angle should be 90 degrees straight up and down. Distance will be 2 pixels, and the size will also be 2 pixels. All right, so next up, we're going to turn on the third layer of text. Again, we'll add a drop shadow here as well. The setting should be normal blend mode, 80% opacity in this case. The color of the drop shadow should be black. The angle, 90 degrees. In this case, the distance is going to be 4 pixels, and the size will be 3 pixels. And this text, we're not going to resize. We're not going to move it too much. It's just going to sit right there. Next up, turn on the fourth and the final layer of text. Make sure we have it selected, and go Edit, Free Transform. This one, we're going to rotate the text about 15 degrees counterclockwise. There's a little degree counter, by the way, up in the top control bar. I probably should have mentioned that a little earlier. And then we'll scale this to make it about 160% of the original text size. So we're not just going to scale this big enough to fill the whole document. We're going to intentionally make it even a little bit bigger than that. So I'm watching for it to be around 160% of the original text size. And before committing the free transform, hitting the little check icon, before we do that, right-click within the transform box and choose the flip vertical option, and then right-click within it again and choose the flip horizontal option. That's just going to really mess the text up a lot. Just give us what looks like a big, complex pattern. And then set this layer to an opacity of 75%. Now that we have our text layers, we're going to use a little kind of hidden hotkey to merge all these layers to a new layer by hitting Command-Shift-Option-E. On the PC, that would be Control-Shift-Alt and the letter E. This is going to form a new layer, and this new layer is our pattern. Now here's where, again, I got to give you a side note. You can use all sorts of different fonts, rotations, opacity levels, drop shadow strengths, sizings, whatever you want to create a huge amount of different style of typography patterns. Really, the sky is the limit. You don't even have to use a font. You can go in if you have a tablet and draw a bunch of letters or write a bunch of words with your own hand. But because we have done all this work now to this document, just make sure you take a quick moment, save this document before we continue. Now that we've created our pattern, let's head back to the photograph. Let's go ahead and prep this photo for the pattern before we bring the pattern over into here. So duplicate the background layer by hitting Command or Control J, and then right-click on this layer and convert it to a smart object. Next, we're going to go and add a gradient map adjustment to this by going Image, Adjustments, Gradient Map. And I just want it to be a simple black to white gradient, and I'm going to tick on the reverse option, which is going to essentially make the photo look like a digital negative. Then I'm going to go and apply the same exact gradient map to this inverted image again. So it's got to be Image, Adjustments, Gradient Map, black to white, inverse, and we're going to get this really high contrast black and white photo. And then we're also going to go Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, apply a 4-pixel blur to the image, and then save this PSD, maybe just to your desktop, somewhere where you can find it. Save the PSD and name it displace.psd. That way we know what it is, and we can get it a little bit later on. Next, back in Photoshop, before we even do anything, let's just go File and choose Save As, and save this PSD again as something like, I'm going to name this working-file.psd, just so we don't accidentally save over our displacement map file. And now that we've done this, let's drag that pattern into our image file. A quick little tip here. If you drag the pattern layer from one Photoshop document to another, you can drag it up to the tab, hold it on the tab, it'll switch to that Photoshop document, and then hold down the Shift key and just drag it out over the Photoshop working area and just let go, and it'll automatically be aligned and snapped right into the middle of our image. Now we want to set this pattern layer to the blend mode of multiply, and then we're going to add an invert adjustment layer. So this is up in the adjustments panel, there's a little invert adjustment layer. We could also just go layer, new adjustment layer, invert. If you can't find it up there, that's all right. Now we're going to clip this adjustment layer to the typography pattern layer by using the hotkey Command-Option-G or Control-Alt-G on the PC. Next, hide the pattern layer for a quick moment. Hit that little eyeball to shut it off. And we're going to go down and toggle the little arrow on our smart object to wheel that layer down if we need to. If it's already open, that's all right. And then we're just going to hide the Gaussian blur on that smart object layer. It's just going to shut it off so we don't have to deal with it. If we need to bring it back later, we can. But right now, we don't need it. Then I'm going to use the quick selection tool to grab just a rough selection around our model. I'm going to use the select and mask tool to further refine that selection by going select, select, and mask. Just going to refine the selection, make it reasonable. It doesn't have to be perfect, just kind of good enough. And then here in select and mask, I'm going to choose to output a selection. Now we're going to go ahead and turn the typography pattern and the invert adjustment layers, turn them back on. And we're going to select both layers in the layers panel by shift-clicking them, and then use the hotkey Command or Control-G to group them together. Now side note here, the selection we outputted from select and mask should still be active. You should still see those marching ants. And using that selection, while you have selected that layer group that we just created, we're going to go layer, layer mask, reveal selection. This will constrain our typography pattern to just the model in the photo. Now open that layer group that we just created, select the typography layer, convert it to a smart object by right-clicking on it and choosing to convert to a smart object, and then go Filter, Distort, Displace. We're going to leave all these settings at default and hit OK, and then navigate to where you've saved your displacement map on your hard drive and load it. After that, go back to Filter, choose Sharpen, choose Smart Sharpen, and we're going to apply a 200 pixel, 1.0 pixel radius, 40% noise reduction pass of sharpening to this typography pattern layer. Next, add a mask directly to this pattern layer, the one that we just converted to a smart object. Add a mask to it by hitting the new mask icon in the bottom of the layers panel. Hit the letter D to reset your foreground and background colors. It should set black as your foreground color. Grab the brush tool and use a large soft edge brush and paint the type pattern away from some of the detailed areas of the head and face. I'm going to paint away the bits of this pattern that are over the eyes, the hair, and maybe a tiny bit in some of the darker shadowy areas of the face as well. Just do this to taste as you think your image can use it or needs it. Now once you think you're finished painting, a quick side tip here is hold down Alt or Option and click on the layer mask. It'll convert it or allow you to view the alpha channel, which is just the black and white, and you can see if there's areas like maybe in the hair that look like they are not showing through any pattern. If you see streaks and bits of white up there, just paint over that stuff with black. You might not be able to see it the first time you're looking at it, but you might come back after the image is done or it's sent off to a client and there's a little bit of the pattern that's coming through. So just to make sure you catch any of that, just enter into that alpha mode of the mask and make sure it's all painted black. And then you can just Alt or Option click on the mask again to get back to sort of your normal standard editing mode. Now we're going to reach down and duplicate the underlying black and white image, that smart object we made way back closer to the beginning of the video. Just hold down your Alt or Option key and just click on that layer and drag it right up above this layer group. That's going to duplicate it and have it placed on top of our layer group. And then we're going to go Filter, Other, High Pass, and we're going to set a high pass filter on this of probably around 7 pixels, something like 7 to 10 pixels I find works well. Then we'll set this layer to the overlay blend mode and reduce the opacity to 50%. Next, let's add a curves adjustment layer and boost the contrast, but particularly boost the contrast with an emphasis on boosting the level of whites in this image. And now that we've done that, it's time to have a little bit of fun. Let's add some color to this, colorize this image. Let's add a gradient map adjustment layer that runs from the color 2A, 1A, 2-1 on the left to the color FFF, ADD on the right. You can see how that's giving us this really neat color effect. Now, I also found this really cool watercolor image on Adobe Stock. I downloaded that. I'm going to position it up here near the top of my image and set it to the blend mode of multiply and just mask it around the model's head. Next, we're going to add a little bit more intensity to this color with a LUT or a lookup table, but to prepare for that boost of intensity and contrast, we need to dull the image a little by adding a levels adjustment layer and setting the output black slider to 40 and the output white slider to 225. Now go ahead and add a color lookup table adjustment layer and choose from the drop-down menu the edgy amber.3dl LUT. It's included with Photoshop. You should have it if you have Photoshop. And then we're going to set this layer to the blend mode of soft light to complete this effect. Of course, you can reduce the opacity a little bit if you find that your image needs it. Just play with it, do what looks good. And I think one last thing to tweak the color a little bit more before we get out of here is to add a selective color adjustment layer and just boost the blues, magentas, and cyans in the neutrals and blacks just to help level out the image a little bit. And there we have it, a completed typography portrait effect that will be sure to impress anyone. Now, before we totally finish this tutorial off and send you on your way, if you enjoyed what you saw here, consider supporting the channel. Pick up a copy of my photo retouching course. There'll be a link that appears somewhere right up there in the video, maybe kind of more like over there. Pick that up, check it out. It helps support what we do here at tutvid.com. If you do decide to pick up a copy of the course, well, thank you very much. If not, there's tons of free videos on the channel. Feel free to gorge yourself on them anytime, anywhere, and for any reason at all. Now, if you did create this effect, I would love to see it. You can upload it to Instagram. You can tag me in it. My Instagram handle is @tutvid. Just tag me in the image. That way it comes through my tagged images, and I never lose track, because sometimes I lose track a little bit, but I can always go back and look. Whereas if you just tag me in the caption, it shows up in the notifications, then it's here today and gone tomorrow kind of thing. And then it's hard for me to keep up with it there. So make sure you tag me in the image. That's really helpful. And I would love to see what you guys create. Give you a little like, give you a comment, show you some love. Thank you for coming in and trying out this tutorial and hanging out with us today. So for creating this effect in Photoshop, that deep typography effect with patterns and smart objects and a little blur and a little high pass and a little this, a little that, a little the other. That's it. Get it? Got it? Good. Nathaniel Dodson, tutvid.com. I'll catch you in the next one. And before you go, make sure you subscribe to my channel for more great tutorials every day. Also, buy my course. It helps us do what we do, and this channel is supported by viewers just like you. You can also just click the thumbnail and watch another video from this channel. See you next time, guys.